East African community, one of their primary objectives of its formation was to protect its citizens and its resources. African Union generally, the primary mandate is on the African sovereignty. Mr. Joseph, when Paul Kagame, a very respectable Pan-African, jumps a plane.
Is he a Pan-Africanist?
Yes.
Is Kagame a Pan-Africanist?
Yes, 100%.
And if this is going to GMO, I'm giving you information, my brother. And the GMO thing is, why is it not about something about research in Kawanda? Why is it as a result of something, a product coming from an American market? You see, these guys, that is intelligence. People think intelligence is about, who's sleeping with who and who is whatever and who has an opinion against Museveni and these NRA bandits once in a while. No, it is that deep. And the global forces think about it from that perspective. Now, in others, you see, the discussion we are having, while it's a discussion that should be about the future in 100 years, you realize that once in a while, when I give you the context of Nkrumah just the other year, you think I'm boring you. When I give you the context about Milton Obote in 1960, sometimes you're 66, 67, some people switch off. And when I talk about 1980, some people...
The Pan-African Pyramid debate with the speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusave. Comrade Joseph Ochieno, you've known him from the political perspective. I'm bringing him on the Pan-African platform. Mr. Ochieno, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Who said Pan-Africanism is not politics?
It is politics, but unfortunately, what we now call politics is not politics.
What is it again?
It's politricks. It's politricks. So the day you start practicing a real politics, the science of managing people from bad to good, positive change, then we shall fuse it with our Pan-Africanism. For now, what we are doing is completely the opposite. Politricks.
What they're doing.
Yes.
Me, I'm a politician and I'm involved in politics. I'm going to discuss with you Pan-Africanism.
They are doing politricks.
Within the context of, they are doing politics.
Politics.
Right. Politics.
Ochieno, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Very straight. We are discussing whether Trump, Paul Kagame of Rwanda, Tshisekedi of DRC, and of course being accompanied by Kenya's William Ruto, I have now come to understand that he is a real hustler, deal maker, he's a dealer. You know a real hustler? At every given opportunity, he will look for a business sense from anything. Yeah, it can even be at a barrio, at a barrio place. You have seen nowadays, I attend some of these Baganda barrios. Nowadays, barrio has become commercial. As you are passing through the community to go to the barrio site, somebody is selling pork, somebody is selling tonto, somebody is selling waragi, somebody is selling goat's meat, muchomo, chicken. It's like these people along the road to the barrio site are totally in a complete different mindset and situation compared to the bereaved family. They are using the bereaved family to earn a living. They are not even with them in their mourning. No. You even find them laughing, making all sorts of fun. So that's a hustler. That's a mindset of Ruto. But today I want to discuss him. I want to concentrate on whether Trump really signed a peace deal and not a mineral deal. I want you to give me the context. The floor is yours.
Why are you on Trump?
Why am I on Trump?
That Trump signed a peace deal.
I'm on Trump because he is the president of the United States of America, a country that pretends to be the headmaster.
Okay. In which case,
to be the headmaster of human rights defense.
No, but then you can't blame Trump. Trump was in the US. You African fellows went to look for him there. Ask me why Trump ended up hosting Africans, in his compound in America to discuss, negotiate, and for him to not sign up, but for him to sign receipt of African resources. And
When he says sign receipt, it means that
yes,
you are saying to receive.
Yes. And then at that, people go ahead and go and clap for it. And the clappers are Chikesedi, the clappers are Kagame, the clappers are Dealmaker Ruto, the clappers are Comrade Museveni. From a distance. No, from a distance. He is the
I don't think he agrees with them. Anyway, go ahead. I don't think
the clappers are Comrade Museveni, and the clappers are all the others. And the most ugly thing is that there's an agency called the East African Community. And even the more ugly one is that an organization called African Unity, called these days African Union. And they clap. And the deal has been made in Washington. And as you rightly say, people going to a funeral and they're dancing all their way, sometimes eating pork side by side with the people who are Hajis who are going to come and pass there. And the bereaved are poorly seated like this, and people are making deals. It is shocking, it is sad that in 2025, we could see a situation in which African rulers go ahead to officially sign off African resources in exchange for askaris in their homes.
What do you mean by askaris in their homes?
During the UPC days, you didn't find...
Again, you're bringing UPC in this context.
Yes. During the UPC days, you didn't find askaris in petrol stations. You didn't find askaris in supermarkets. Yeah. You didn't find askaris in people's homes. That is how peaceful this country was. But if today you fast forward askaris by the gate and you claim peace, then you're being hypocritical. But most importantly, African resources are the center of Congo. NRA grabs a little bit, RPA grabs a little bit, others grab a little bit. The Middle Eastern guys come and grab a few mafias here, and then you go ahead and say that, okay, let's get askaris to cover up. And the best one is Donald Trump. Yeah. So no, it's very unfortunate. Whatever happened in America is a shame that an African leader could get Anglo-America to officially guarantee they're behaving like good boys, as you're saying. Come on, behave. Little kids behave, And as a result of me being your Nyampala, who you keep quiet in class, if you've been a class prefect, I'll write your name. If not, I'll whip you a bit to the teacher. You pay me back with everything you have in the granaries of your household. So, Congo has just struck a deal with the deal maker Trump, who has very low opinion of Africans and has had very low opinion of Africans for a long time. A man who's a misogynist, who's abused women and used women. And you give him the right to control your resources in exchange for your security guarantee and sovereignty. And you do so when the country that guy rules is the country that supervised Uganda and Rwanda invasion of Congo and exploitation of their resources. They did so 30 years ago, they're doing so today, and there is a quiet. How even Qatar comes in to be more of a friend to Kagame in these deals, I do not know. But most painfully is that Congo is the country that in contemporary times had an elected prime minister in Patrice Lumumba. And this guy is assassinated, this guy is killed. There was an assassination attempt on Milton Obote 9 years later by forces associated. But Patrice Lumumba's was direct and extremely brutal. Killed because he was seen not only as the African progressive nationalist and guarantor of sovereignty of the people of Congo, but also guarantor of Congolese African resources. And at the time, these forces knew if Patrice Lumumba governed, and in Kwame Nkrumah governed, and Milton Obote governed, I'm talking about those three particularly, plus the multiplier effect.
Kenya.
No, which Kenya? Kenya, don't make me sick. Which Kenya? Kenyatta, don't make me sick. Allow me to continue this. Plus one or two others.
You remove Kenyatta from this list of people?
No, in this context. I'm talking about the good African guys. Kenyatta wasn't one of them. And I counted those three very specifically. You'll go to Togo, and I think go to Senegal. There are 2-3 other African leaders that you can add to the pot. Let me tell you this.
Mozambique, Gundi,
no, those ones hadn't come. They hadn't come. I'm talking about here 50s to 60s African, and by the use of as a paraphrase, you need to take this very seriously. You know, the enemy of Africa watches. I know they watch these programs. They see which young journalist at 27 is sharp and clever enough that is capable of challenging William Pike. Which sharp journalistic researcher, investigator, like the spy, is able to investigate critically the reasons for the Iraqi war and the oil deals involved. Which young African is at 18 and she's attending Nabisusa Girls, a fantastic debater, but very clear-minded, that in 10 years' time, she would have finished law school and LDC and decided that she's not going to practice law, but she's going to open a farm to support young girls in the streets of Kampala, but at the same time become an advocate for women's rights. And that at 26, she is conscious enough also to look at the Ugandan budget and say, why isn't there sufficient provision for education? And to look at the Ugandan budget and say, why is so much going to arms? And which arms are arms which are bought from Anglo-America? And when she looks at that, she's saying, but look, part of this is a contribution to health, and part of this is to GMO. And if this is going to GMO, I'm giving you information, my brother. And the GMO thing is, why is it not about something about research in Kawanda? Why is it as a result of something, a product coming from an American market? You see, these guys, that is intelligence. People think intelligence is about, who's sleeping with who and who is whatever and who has an opinion against Museveni and these NRA bandits once in a while. No, it is that deep. And the global forces think about it from that perspective. Now, in others, you see, the discussion we are having, while it's a discussion that should be about the future in 100 years, you realize that once in a while, when I give you the context of Nkrumah just the other year, you think I'm boring you. When I give you the context about Milton Obote in 1960, sometimes you're 66, 67, some people switch off. And when I talk about 1980, some people switch off. And when I talk about even NRA banditry in Luweero in 1983-84, people switch off. Say, we want our peace, we want to move on tomorrow. Do you get it? It is those kind of things that our people need to wake up. Had it not been the case, there would be demonstrations in the streets of Kampala, there would be demonstrations in the streets of Kinshasa, there would be demonstrations in the streets of Nairobi. Ideally, predominantly those days, there would be demonstrations in Dodoma and Dar es Salaam, demanding for why. Yeah? Guys with dubious democratic credentials of the African continent could line themselves and go to Washington and sign off critical, and they even use the fact that America uses it as critical mineral resources means it's critically important. But the fact that they also talk about it from that perspective and is critical and in plenty. I think some of these people ought to be mobilized and down for treason and dumped at Luzira.
Okay, you have talked a lot, but let's come back to the deal. Let's break down the deal that Trump signed off with Congo and Rwanda. What is the context of Trump's involvement in Congo's minerals? What's the context?
From the time of before Lumumba, the Belgians used, raped, abused, and exploited. They did that in Congo. The Belgian friends would have done it in Uganda. They would have done it across this continent. This continent has been raped. Now I'm using it in the broader sense, raped since the time of slavery, where our people are used, abused, and their resources massively exploited. Following the Second World War, when Africans began to sort of wake up a bit and push in for their sovereignty, leading in this case to, as I said, 1960 and the emergence of critical African nationalist leaders with the very clear ideologically focused minds of the likes of Nkrumahs at the time and the Lumumbas. They get independence, and their position on independence was very clear. We will attain independence, but we shall also build nation states. We shall build our institutions, and then in so doing, they begin to present themselves as a threat to the Western industrial dependence on African resources, and the same critical minerals and oil, which they're battling with in the Middle East. So, knowing that Africa was the easy corner, target African independence leaders who were seen to be progressively left or progressively genuine African nationalists that would then, if they took over, they would be a threat to the Western interests. And then in areas like in Southern Africa, where you now bring the Machels, push to delay for the independence of these countries because the Nkrumahs had very early on declared that Ghana at 1957 will not consider itself free and independent unless the entire continent is universally free and independent. Now, at the stage joined by the likes of Nkrumahs, the Lumumbas and the Obotes et al., in 1961, Obote, still as merely leader of opposition, meets Nelson Mandela and tells Mandela that, you know what, as we continue with this and with the possibility of us attaining self-government, whether or not we're in government. So meaning, what I was saying, that even if UPC does not win 1962 election at independence, even if we don't form a government, we will be voice enough to demand that the Ugandan government gives this support to the liberation struggle of Southern Africa. And of course, generally, to be fair, there was a reasonable consensus amongst Africans that Southern Africa ought to be liberated. But we committed ourselves to arms, resources, and logistical stuff, including passports. But it was also very clear that at the death of Patrice Lumumba, that we would support Lumumba's forces in Congo, and you and I have discussed this before, and to make sure that we're able to have a counter-revolutionary action in Congo, which enables and gives emancipation to the Congolese people who are pro-Congo against the external forces. Of course, by and large, this is a slightly different story. Fast forward, as I say, in 1966, 67, these guys exposed Idi Amin's role in Congo in supporting Congolese rebels. But Amin goes to Congo, unfortunately. Amin also gets involved in theft of Congolese, although it was merely an old deal, as opposed to the theft that the NRA guys did. So he got involved in gold deals. You know, he's exposed. Obote threatens to basically arrest him for that. Of course, then these guys say we will use it to get rid of Obote. Fast forward to the early 80s, the continuation and realignment of forces. Congo is still at the center of the big mineral wealth in this place. They have Mobutu, a stooge. They have Kenyatta, a stooge. They have Kamuzu Banda, a stooge. They have Milton Obote here, an inconvenience. you know. So they get rid of Obote, second time round. You know, in the 1990 October, Museveni and Kagame invade Rwanda on behalf of these forces. Granted, the Banyarwanda, Rwandese, the refugees in Uganda had a right to return to their country, but they returned in the manner in which it was, the manner in which they did, which would not be globally described. But that they done, they go occupy Rwanda, and they said within 3 years, they'd invaded Congo. Granted, in the name of getting rid of Mobutu. But really, it was a strategic occupational process to take over Congo and make sure that in Congo there's a client regime backed by Uganda and Rwanda, and by extension, therefore, a client regime for Anglo-American, in this case, American forces. Okay. And so they did that. Okay. So they did that. They used Kabila. Kabila wakes up very quickly and also changes against these people. These people continue to push against that. What has happened since then until today? The scramble for resources pushes. What happens more recently? Right now, weak Congo, which has not really been able to grow in the last 30 years, Rwanda that has officially, or almost settled officially in Congo, Uganda that's officially in Congo, the M23 forces, you know, according to UN, quite clearly backed by Uganda and Rwanda. The FDLR, these are basically the Banyarwanda refugee organization operating allegedly in Congo against Rwanda. If this deal was to be a deal that was genuine, it was a deal that needed to have the Congolese government, Congolese opposition, fighting forces in Congo, neighboring countries with grievances in Congo. Uganda needs to explain why it is in Congo. Rwanda also be able to explain themselves. These ones talk about ADF. We have a genuine Africanist conversation, and we say, what is ADF and what's their interest if true? What is M23? What's their interest if it's true? You know, and what about Congo and their sovereignty as a nation state? We have that conversation. Where in all this does Congolese mineral become an issue, even for the regional leaders? It shouldn't be. Now, because we have client regimes that are operating around these things, it's not surprising that, as I said, Carter is involved because of his friendship with Rwanda, and maybe it has been alleged that Carter is the conduit for the siphoning of Congolese resources, which these guys pick from there. And then they use America, which has always been there and always been interested. You find Trump, who's a dealer, like, as you say, Trump and Ruto, said that we shall, because Trump is the only person who can bang the table to check Museveni and check Kagame and say, okay, now let's take whatever we can calm you down. Tshisekedi on this occasion seemingly is fighting more for his survival rather than for the independence and sovereignty of Congo. Of course, if I was in Tshisekedi's position, I would not accept this deal as it is.
Okay. Now, Mr. Ochieno, we all know that China is very much involved in the exploitation of minerals in Congo. When Tshisekedi signs with America, Trump, and Kagame, what do you see between China and America using DRC as their homegrown war site?
I've always argued that Africa has been the battleground for the Third World War, and that war has continued. And so we've been used as centers for experiments. And in this case, yes, you're right in terms of the exploitation of resources. Uganda suffered as the underbelly of the Arab world before South Sudan broke up. At the moment, at the center has always been Congo, as I said, since the killing of Patrice Lumumba. In geopolitical terms, you could argue that Trump had to rush in to do the deal in order to check China.
And Russia.
And Russia. And I think even Turkey and other emergent interests. But I don't think that's the important thing. To me, the important thing is, why should an African country use its natural resources as a deal to secure its independence and sovereignty? That is my question.
And that brings me...
Number two, if I was to choose in a very particular way between if I was to choose between Russia and America, as far as some of these interests are concerned, I possibly would choose none, but I would ask questions from a historical perspective. Russia and China, at least to be fair to them, have historically been on the side of Africans when it comes to the question of our liberation. But people would go ahead and argue that, well, these guys were doing it because whoever was a friend to us was an enemy to the other. Russia and China have not generally been much more directly willing to say that we back you and we back rebellion group, but the Americans have been. So the Russians would want to do it kachini kachini. My opinion is that possibly they would normally want to do their deals without caring about the internal contradictions within your nation states.
Number two.
The Americans would use any
Number
means
two.
to be able to do
Number
that.
two.
Yeah.
East African community, one of their primary objectives of its formation was to protect its citizens and its resources. African Union generally, the primary mandate is on the African sovereignty. Mr. Joseph, when Paul Kagame, a very respectable Pan-African, jumps a plane.
Is he a Pan-Africanist?
Yes.
Is Kagame a Pan-Africanist?
Yes, 100%.
Are you sure?
I believe in his Pan-African ideals.
You believe in him, but you don't believe in his Pan-African.
He is a Pan-African. I believe in him. Of course, there is nobody who is 100% correct, including
which
you and me.
Which Pan-Africanist invades another African country?
Let's first leave that. Because you are going to divert me from my question. Now, Kagame, a Pan-African, goes to look for solutions for Africa from a very crazy man. I would even say at least Carter. There was some symbolic, respectful engagement in Carter, that leader. You could see some people, even if they don't mean it, but they will show you that they mean it. But a man like Trump, I can tell you, even Trump doesn't know what he was talking about. even his
He's
own
an American president.
Even his own staff in White House, I could hear them laughing. This is true. If you listen to the speeches that came out of there were some laughters from the White House staff. Because it's like the man came into the room, and quite clearly, he wasn't even aware of what he was saying. But anyway, he was ready with his pen to sign. Peace agreement, peace accord. He has never stepped in Africa. He doesn't know African politics. He doesn't know anything. But because he's an American president. Now what annoys me is Kagame to go truly believing that he can get a solution from such a man.
Do you think he truly believes?
I don't know.
Maybe he was coerced.
Okay.
I think it's possibly the American police chief told him that you better come and sort this thing else or else. But considering that the day after the signing, war broke up again.
War has continued, actually, as if there is no signing. That's what
and war has continued. Maybe that signing is as good as Museveni's Nairobi peace jokes with his friends, the Okellos. So subjected to that while we're busy planning whatever we can be doing in Chiboga and Liantonde.
So it really disturbs me to see a man of Kagame's caliber going to America to look for an African solution. Yet he has always preached that African problems, African solutions.
What statement has the other Pan-Africanist pretender Museveni made?
Museveni has made no statement.
Why?
About that. I don't know. Is he a pretender or is he a true Pan-African?
So why do you think he hasn't made a statement?
I think because he doesn't believe this Trump-led peace accord will work.
And so they're...
And he doesn't want to engage in confrontation with Trump because Trump is, is too much talkative.
So these are your African opportunists.
Ah.
I don't think there's anybody who's a Pan-Africanist who can see Africa bleeding and turns away. I don't know whether there's any true Pan-Africanist who can want to sell Africa. I don't see any Pan-Africanist who can see African children dying, whether in Kivu, in Kawempe, or in Kingston, in Jamaica, and they keep quiet. I don't know whether there's enough Pan-Africanist. I don't know such a Pan-Africanist.
So who is quiet? Who is quiet in this context?
I have not heard many people, you see. I've not heard many people, so why are they quiet? They know what we don't know. And some of them are part of the deals.
You believe so?
It's a shame that this deal, in a very interesting way, Mr. Museveni must be very happy because they don't mention Uganda. But since in corruption you can bribe anything, you can do Chigundu mathematics. Maybe they're doing Chigundu analysis. You edit out facts. Yes. What do you think?
I don't know, but I really don't know, Mr. Ochieno, whether this peace deal is realistic on ground, because M23 were not invited in that peace deal.
No, it's this mineral deal.
So I don't know whether to call that a peace deal. Do you call that peace deal?
No, it's a mineral deal.
So how do you what do you have to say about the entire process of going to America to sign a peace deal without involving M23 who are aggrieved?
As long as M23 have got their political faces there from Kampala and Kigali, it is possible that whatever happens it could be binding to them. But if it is part of the strategic Nairobi peace jokes deal, it may also be the case that this one say, you guys remain down there, do the things that you do well, let's go to Washington to try and present flowers, when the real thing is not about that. So that is possibly the more likely thing. But in the event that it was anything other than that, yeah, you would argue that all these parties should be there, and as I said at the beginning. But on this occasion, it is also true that these parties are represented by political masters, and the political masters are in some of the African capitals that you know, and some of the African political masters in African political capitals are representatives of these foreign interests. And then as long as that's the deal, the African is alone. You, African, you're alone. Your resources are being pulled by a bunch that you know. They're pulling money off the mouth of your children and children's children. They're saving no money to school fees, but they're starting off trillions and billions of dollars in their pockets. They're breaking and killing our people on roads. Like now in my family, there's a tragedy involving 2 people dead on the road, but they're stifling away trillions and they're giving some more to Trump and others. African children have got no jobs, but you can see some of those other ones being part of staff going to Washington to sign off your life as you see it. As I said, the only thing is that young Africans ought to wake up, begin to put these demands. I want to see young Africans at universities in this country asking the same question we are asking. Young Africans, universities in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Congo, including those ones in Rwanda.
Comrade Ochieno, is African Union still relevant in solving African problems?
When was it?
Because that was the primary role of where they were instituted.
No, when we told you that when these people were changing, we knew they were not going to do much. They were just trying to facelift things. You thought we were the ones complaining. No, the Organization of African Unity's founding parents were real African leaders. Many of the guys who eventually come as part of this African Union people and East African Union people, they've been stooges, predominantly. And they've been used to formalize the continued exploitation of Africa. As I said to you before, The people on trial here are the African Union. Excuse me. The people on trial are the leaders of the East African community. The people on trial are the leaders of SADC. The people on trial are rulers of Uganda, Rwanda, and Congo, who are direct parties involved, and to an extent, of course, Burundi. Those are the people on trial. And the people who are most betrayed here are people from Congo, Congolese citizens, the victims of war who are predominantly women and young people, Ugandans and Rwandese and Congolese, in whose names we hold rulers who play games on us, and Africans that are being used, and you find Trump aides just laughing at us, they can't believe. And some of us pretend and claim that we're going to school. And for you even want to use strong words calling certain individuals Pan-Africanists. A Pan-Africanist cannot steal Africa. A Pan-Africanist cannot steal from Africa. A Pan-Africanist cannot invade Africa. A Pan-Africanist cannot serve as a Nyampala against foreign forces against African nationalism and independence.
Oh, really? So, in your own words, in your own thinking, Kagame and Museveni are not Pan-Africanists? Because me, I have learned a lot from them as a Pan-African. I don't know.
You're really worrying me if they're really your true symbols of Pan-Africanism.
Like I said, they cannot be 100% correct, but there are things that they have done that really mean that they have an idea about Pan-Africanism.
What they told Tony Blair, that there are no half measures in democracy. Now you are threatening me by saying there are half measures in Pan-Africanism. You're either Pan-Africanist or you're not, my brother. But since I am here to learn, today I'm very humble. What are those good Pan-Africanist values and ideas you learned from Museveni and his junior brother, Kagame?
You and I know.
I don't.
You and I know.
No, what is it?
You and I know that there are things that they have been doing.
For example?
That Kagame has united his country.
Is that Pan-Africanism?
He has united his country. He has protected his country's resources and so on. He has united his people. He has defended African interests.
Where?
At the global level.
Where?
At the global level.
Where is the globe?
You know where they have been.
And his elder brother Museveni?
The same.
Done what?
Museveni is the reason why there is some resemblance of peace in South Sudan and Somalia, and sometime back also in Kenya when there was a problem. There is total peace in Uganda.
Sorry?
Peace in Uganda.
In Kawempe?
In the entire Uganda, including Kawempe. Is there any problem in Kawempe now? Yes, there are problems that come and go.
Is that Pan-Africanism?
Even you yourself.
Is that Pan-Africanism?
Even you yourself, you are here speaking very well.
So,
after here, you are going to drive your car and go home and rest.
What is that? What are you trying to suggest?
I mean, he has tried.
Is that Pan-Africanism?
He has tried to create.
What have I stolen? Not to drive home. Whom have I killed? Whose neck have I broken? Whose minerals have I stolen? Which treasury? How many Babatis did I pick from the treasury? When was the last time I was in Congo stealing things? When did I invade Congo? So what crime have I committed?
No crime, and that's why I'm telling you that you go home straight in your...
So why should it be anything except that? And why should you give credit to anybody else for that? Including people who are so uncomfortable. By the way, why does Museveni have such a long convoy? What does he fear?
Long convoy. He's the president.
Meaning what?
I mean, he's the president. That's what I mean.
You mean presidential?
He can afford the convoy. You cannot afford.
From Mizrachitura?
I don't know.
Why does he have people who are masked around him? I never saw that around Obote.
Because he's the president.
Obote was the president. I never saw masked.
That's why he lost power. Because he didn't have mask.
No, Obote didn't lose. He was pushed out of power by gunmen.
Yeah,
by gunmen.
yes.
By foreign backed
whatever it is, he lost power. He doesn't have it. But then he died, he didn't have it.
So this one, because they have it, they're Pan-Africanists. So you're really saying that Museveni's presence in Sudan to protect Salva Kiir with their dollars in briefcases and others, and Somalia on behalf of Anglo-America is being Pan-Africanist?
Museveni is in Somalia on behalf of other people's interests, not the interest of Africa.
No.
That is new to me. I didn't know, Joseph. Are you sure?
Is that Pan-Africanism?
No, I mean, we need to interrogate that.
You're the spy. You mean
Is that correct?
Why?
That Museveni can be hired to go in Somalia and protect some other person's interests other than African
Ask
interests?
Obote. Obote will tell you he's a Nyampala. What's a Nyampala?
Mr. Ochieno, thank you so much for being part of this debate. I'm grateful for the opportunity you've given me to speak to you.
Thank you very much. I am an African like Thabo Mbeki, and I'm a Pan-Africanist.
Yeah, I do so.
You are.
I do believe.
I strongly urge and persuade you not to be persuaded to follow other people for whatever other reason except Pan-Africanists.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.